Have you ever woken up feeling like you need to prove yourself? That before even placing your feet on the ground, you already carry an endless list of demands for yourself? As if the simple act of existing weren't enough, and you needed to earn the right to be here, to take up space, to breathe without guilt. Take a deep breath now, exactly where you are. This moment is yours. This morning was born for you, and you woke up because there's something in you that still wants to blossom, that still desires to express itself, that still believes in the possibility of feeling good about yourself, and that by itself is already sacred. Perhaps you woke with that familiar weight in your chest. Perhaps you looked in the mirror, and the first thing that came to mind wasn't kind. Perhaps you're already mentally reviewing everything you should have done yesterday, all the ways you weren't enough, all the ways you feel short of what you imagine you should be. I understand. That critical voice inside you learned to speak very loud, very early. It was built over years, layer by layer, word by word, glance by glance. And it lies. It has always lied. Because the truth about you is different. The truth is that you are worthy of love exactly as you are now. Not when you lose weight, not when you achieve that goal, not when you solve all your problems. Now, in this imperfect, vulnerable, confused instant, you are deserving of kindness, especially your own kindness. I deserve my own love and kindness. Repeat this with me, my dear, in a low voice, or just in the silence of your heart. Let these words touch the wounded places inside you. You don't need to believe it completely yet. Just allow the possibility to exist. Allow a sliver of light to enter that place where you've stored all the rejection you felt over the years. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your body, not to judge it, but to acknowledge it. This body that breathes without you needing to ask permission. This heart that beats tirelessly, even on nights when you felt completely lost. These eyes that opened again today, offering you one more opportunity to see beauty, to experience life, to choose differently. Place your hand over your heart now. Feel the warmth. Feel the movement. This body has been by your side your entire life, carrying you through every storm, and still, how many times have you treated it as an enemy? How many times have you denied it rest, kindness, loving words? How many times have you looked at it only seeing flaws, as if it were a defective project instead of a living miracle? Today, you can choose differently. Today, in the morning, before the world demands anything from you, you can offer yourself what you always hope to receive from others. Total acceptance, without conditions, without demands. Self-acceptance isn't a destination where you arrive perfect and enlightened. It's a daily practice, a morning exercise of looking at yourself with the same compassionate eyes with which you would look at a frightened child. Because there's a child inside you who's still waiting to be seen, embraced, accepted. And that child doesn't need more criticism. She needs to hear, "I see you. You're safe with me. You are enough." Pause for a moment. Imagine that child you were. Do you remember? That little being full of life, curious, who hadn't yet learned to judge themselves so harshly. That version of you who danced without worrying about who was watching, who laughed without calculating if it was appropriate, who dreamed without measuring if it was realistic. What happened to them? The world taught that they needed to be different, that they weren't enough the way they were. And you, trying to survive, trying to fit in, trying to be loved, began to mold yourself according to others' expectations. You began to cut pieces of your essence to fit into spaces that were never made for you. You began to believe that love was something you needed to earn through perfection, performance, approval. But self-love is different. Self-love is revolutionary because it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for you to deserve it. It simply recognizes that you exist, and that's reason enough. I choose to see myself with eyes of love. This is a decision you can make now. It's not about always feeling good or never having doubts. It's about recognizing that even in doubts, even in imperfection, you deserve your own gentle presence. You don't need to prove yourself to yourself. You don't need to earn the right to be kind to yourself. Breathe deeply. As you inhale, imagine you're bringing into yourself a soft, golden light, like the first rays of sun touching the earth in the morning. This light carries pure acceptance. It doesn't want you to change. It doesn't have a list of demands. It simply recognizes the divine spark that you are and always were. As you exhale, release all the tension you carry in your shoulders, all the rigidity with which you've judged yourself. Release the need to be perfect. Release the belief that you need to be different to be worthy. Release. Let go. With each breath, you're creating space within yourself. Space for a new narrative. A story where you're not the villain who needs to be corrected, but the hero who deserves to be celebrated simply for being here, trying, growing, living. Look around the environment where you are now. Notice how the morning light touches the objects, how everything seems new when you decide to be truly present. This morning is a symbol. It represents all the opportunities for new beginnings that life offers you, constantly, generously. And the first new beginning always happens in the way you treat yourself. Because you know what happens when you start the day criticizing yourself? That vibration of rejection contaminates everything. Every interaction, every decision, every possibility. You spend the day trying to compensate for the feeling of not being enough, seeking external validation, trying to prove your worth. It's exhausting, it's unnecessary, and it ends today if you choose. I am my own friend. Allow this truth to settle in. Imagine how it would be if, in every difficult moment today, you had by your side your own unconditional support. Not a voice that says you should have done better, but a presence that whispers you're doing your best and that's enough. How different would it be to go through this day knowing you're your ally, not your critic? Think about this. Would you treat a dear friend the way you treat yourself? When that friend makes a mistake, do you massacre them with harsh words? When they face a challenge, do you list all their inadequacies? When they're vulnerable, do you reject them? Of course not. You offer understanding, patience, encouragement, love. Why do you deserve less than that? Why do you, who carry the weight of your own world on your shoulders every day, who fight battles no one else sees, who keep trying even when exhausted, why don't you deserve the same kindness you so generously offer to others? Place your hands on your face now, gently. Feel the texture of your skin. Feel the warmth. This face carries your story. Every line, every mark, every imperfection you criticize so much is evidence that you lived, felt, survived. This face deserves to be touched with tenderness, not disdain. Self-acceptance is a revolutionary act. In a culture that profits from your insecurity, that feeds on your sense of inadequacy, choosing to love yourself is an act of spiritual rebellion. It's saying, I don't need the world's approval to recognize my worth. I don't wait to be perfect to treat myself well. I begin now. And do you know what the most beautiful paradox is? When you stop fighting against yourself, when you genuinely accept yourself, that's when real transformation happens. Not because you're trying to force yourself to change, but because the energy that was trapped in self-criticism is now free to flow, create, heal. Think of a flower. It doesn't struggle to bloom. It doesn't stay awake at night wondering if it's beautiful enough, if its petals are at the right angle, if its fragrance pleases everyone. It simply receives the sun, the water, and naturally blossoms. You too can flourish naturally when you feel safe within yourself. I trust my process. You are exactly where you need to be now. Every experience you lived brought you to this moment. Every mistake you made was part of your learning. Every time you fell, you proved to yourself that you're capable of getting up. You're stronger than you imagine, wiser than you recognize, more deserving than you believe. But perhaps there's resistance within you. Perhaps a part of you is saying, this is beautiful, but you don't know me. You don't know the things I've done, the mistakes I've made, the people I've disappointed. How can I accept myself after everything? My dear, self-acceptance isn't about pretending you're perfect. It's not about ignoring your flaws or denying your mistakes. It's about recognizing your complete humanity, light and shadow, successes and failures, strength and vulnerability. It's about saying, I am all of this, and I still deserve love. I am all of this, and I still have worth. I am all of this, and I still belong. You've carried guilt long enough. You've punished yourself long enough. You've denied yourself long enough. Not because it was necessary, but because no one taught you there was another way. No one showed you that you could be kind to yourself and still grow, that you could accept yourself and still evolve, that you could love yourself and still change. Breathe once more, deeply. Feel your body expand with the breath. This expansion is physical, but also energetic. You're creating space within yourself for a new narrative. A narrative where you're the main character who deserves love, not the one who needs to conquer it through suffering and perfection. With each inhalation, bring acceptance into yourself. With each exhalation, release judgment. Inhale, I deserve to be here. Exhale, I release the need to be perfect. Inhale, I am enough. Exhale, I release self-criticism. Feel how, gradually, the tension begins to dissolve, how the shoulders relax, how the jaw releases, how the chest opens. Your body knows this is the truth. Your body always knew. It was just waiting for you to recognize it. I accept myself completely, now and always. Let this affirmation resonate in every cell of your body. You're not just saying words. You're planting a new seed of truth in the garden of your consciousness. And with each morning, you water that seed with kindness, with presence, with self-love. It will grow. And do you know what happens when that seed grows? You begin to perceive subtle changes. You notice you no longer need constant validation from others. You realize you can receive criticism without emotional collapse, because your worth no longer depends on others' opinions. You discover you can make mistakes without destroying yourself, because error doesn't define who you are. You begin to make different choices, choices that honor your needs, not just others' expectations. Choices that respect your boundaries, not just what you think you should endure. Choices that feed your soul, not just your external image. And the people around you notice. They feel the change in your energy. You become more present, more authentic, more whole. Because when you're no longer spending energy fighting against yourself, there's so much more of you available to offer the world. This morning, make a commitment to yourself. A simple commitment, but profound. Today, I will be my ally. Today, I will speak to myself with kindness. Today, I will recognize my worth. Every time you notice the critical voice emerging, pause. Not to fight against it, but to recognize, this is just an old recording. It's not the truth about me. And then, gently, offer yourself the opposite. If the voice says you failed, respond, I'm learning, and that's enough. If it says you're not worthy, whisper, I am a unique expression of life, and that makes me infinitely valuable. Practice this throughout the day. It doesn't need to be grand. Small moments of kindness toward yourself are like drops of water that, with time, fill an ocean. A loving thought here, an encouraging word there, a pause to breathe when you're overwhelmed, an acknowledgement that you're doing the best you can. And in the moments when you fail, because you will fail, because we all fail, that too is part of the practice. When you catch yourself being hard on yourself, simply notice. Ah, there it is, the old critical voice. And with kindness, even with humor, redirect. Thank you for trying to protect me in your way, but I have a better path now. Because that's what self-criticism always was, a misdirected attempt to keep you safe. If it could make you perfect, it thought, no one would reject you. No one would hurt you. You'd be protected. But it doesn't work that way. The armor you built around your heart to protect yourself also keeps love out, including your own love. It's time to remove that armor, piece by piece, layer by layer. And you don't need to do it alone. The entire universe is conspiring in your favor. Every morning that's born is a new invitation. Every breath is a reminder that you're alive, that you matter, that you're part of something much greater. Connect now with that greater force. You don't need to call it God or universe or divine energy. Call it whatever makes sense to you. But recognize that there's a loving intelligence that created you, that sustains you, that sees you as complete and whole. You're not an accident. You're not a mistake. You're a deliberate and precious expression of life. and that life wants you to flourish, not through struggle and suffering, but through acceptance and love. When you accept yourself, you align with the natural flow of existence. You stop swimming against the current and allow the river to carry you. I flow with life, and life flows through me. Feel this truth. You don't need to control everything. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, be authentic, and trust that you're exactly who you need to be in this moment. This morning, before you go out to face the day, before you put on your social masks, before you worry about what others think, spend a few minutes just being you, completely, without judgment, without needing to be different. Sit in silence if you can, or while you drink your coffee, or in the shower. Find a moment that's just yours, and in that moment, simply acknowledge, I am here, I exist, and that is enough. Perhaps you'd like to do a journaling practice. Take paper and write, what do I most need to hear from myself today? And then write, without censorship, without judgment, just let it flow. It can be one sentence, it can be pages. What matters is creating that loving dialogue with yourself. Or perhaps you'd rather simply look at yourself in the mirror. Really look, not to evaluate, but to see. And say out loud, I see you, I accept you, I love you. At first it might feel strange. You might even laugh nervously. But continue, because your heart has been waiting for these words for a long time. You came to this world complete, whole, deserving. Nothing that's happened since then changed that essential truth. You just forgot. And now, this morning, you're remembering. You're coming back home, the home that was always you. And when you live from this place of self-acceptance, miracles happen. Not external miracles necessarily, though those can come too, but internal miracles, the peace you feel when looking in the mirror, the freedom of no longer seeking constant approval, the courage to be authentic, the capacity to love and be loved without fear. These are the true miracles. Stand up now, knowing you're not alone. You have your own company, and it's compassionate. This day will be different because you are different. Not because you changed overnight, but because you chose to begin treating yourself as someone loved. And you are. You always were. Welcome to this new dawn. Welcome back home, in yourself. The journey continues, but now you walk with an ally by your side. You. And there's no more powerful, more reliable, more transformative companionship than that. May this morning be the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. A relationship based on love, not fear. On acceptance, not judgment. On kindness, not criticism. You deserve this. You always deserved it. And from this moment, you recognize that truth. And in recognizing it, you live it. And in living it, you transform. And in transforming, you transform the world around you. Because a heart that accepts itself, that loves itself, that recognizes itself as worthy, radiates a light that cannot be contained. And the world needs your light, exactly as it is, exactly as you are. I am worthy of love, exactly as I am. Breathe this, feel this, live this, and know that in every moment you can choose to return to this truth. Whenever you get lost, whenever doubt arises, whenever criticism appears, you can return here, to this breath, to this acceptance, to this love. You are enough. You always were. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can change that. Go in peace, my dear. Go knowing you carry within you everything you need. Go with the certainty that you're loved, especially by yourself. And may this morning, and all the mornings to come, be filled with the light of self-acceptance. You are a blessing to this world, and it's time you recognized it.